Hey everybody, welcome back to the 130th episode of Taps and Patience, the podcast where one of the hosts breaks his microphone right before the podcast. Oh my gosh, the music's loud today. Did I introduce us? I'm AJ with Subtract Manufacturing and Audacity Micro, here with Harrison of Precision Ingenuity. Hi Harrison.
How we doing, AJ?
I'm doing better than my microphone stand. It is a shame we didn't get that on camera.
Yeah. AJ's doing the YouTube thing now where you hold the mic.
I could probably use this as a good excuse to finally switch to the nice microphone that Dylan sent me 6 months ago.
Oh my goodness. It's been 6 months and you haven't switched to that?
I don't know the actual number of months, but yeah. This is a very AJ thing, and I apologize to all of our listeners for that. But for this episode, I can get really close to the microphone if I need to.
Yeah. I switched that up so fast it made your head spin.
I was going to ask you if we could record tomorrow with Toolpath being here, but I forgot to ask you and I forgot to ask them, so I guess here we are.
Oh, Toolpath's coming out? Oh, I think you mentioned that
Toolpath
last
is
podcast.
going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah. That'll be cool. Yeah, you guys are both recording each other for content?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like content swapping.
It's a collaboration.
I'll record you, you record me. It'll be great content. No, that's great. That'll be fun.
I'll do a behind the scenes, and then they can do a behind the scenes, and then I'll do a behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. And everyone's going to be wondering, where's the front?
Yeah.
So how's your week been? How was last week?
It has been pretty busy and pretty productive. So we had Fabtech that I went to.
Ooh, how was that?
I made a bunch of parts, shipped a bunch of parts. And I did some major cleaning in my shop today.
How was Fabtech?
Completely separate from the fact that Toolpath is going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
Fabtech was fun. It ended up being a rather hectic day, like a very hectic day. So I had what was it? It was I think some parts I just needed to package. And I needed to package and ship them before we left. So I wrapped them up and printed shipping labels, and it just took me longer to get out the door than I expected. I had also printed 3D printed some stuff for Arda, and then laser cut them some stuff. And I was trying to maximize the amount of stuff that I was able to bring them. And so while I was packaging this, I was also running the laser to get some more parts done. I had been up late the night before trying to, finish the parts so I could ship them before I went to Fabtech. And I got out the door at 8, I think, maybe 8:30. Then it was an hour down to Indianapolis to pick up Scott. And Scott got in the car with me. We were borrowing my dad's Corolla because it gets good gas mileage for driving to Chicago. And we drove about 10 minutes to the FedEx place where I was going to drop off the first half of my packages, because, of course, half of them were FedEx and the other half were UPS. And that car's had some squeaking that we've known about. It's rubbing in the brake somewhere. Wasn't a big deal. We looked at it once and went, we'll fix that in a bit. Well, that squeaking turned from squeaking to grinding at FedEx. Bad card noises.
That's fun.
So I was able to kind of play with it a bit to make it go back to squeaking. And so we drove the squeaky car back to Scott's house. So that's 15 minutes in the wrong direction. Swapped to his car and then drove that up to Fabtech. So we're late on top of late. Then we had to stop at UPS on the way to drop off my other half of the packages. And then we got food. And then we got to Fabtech. So we got there definitely late in the day. We got there about an hour and a half before our meetup. And so, we got in the building, got our badges and everything, and went and found the Articard booth, which is they were kind enough to host our meetup. and I was able to bring them the 3D printed parts and the laser cut parts that I'd made for them. They were doing some like basically some swag. It's like a little magnet that said "Don't let stock out screw you." It was a pretty cool piece, and they had it kind of set
Nice.
up with a Kanban bin um, style setup because that's what Arda does. They do Kanban. So we talked to Uriel for probably like an hour, and then Scott and I walked around for a half an hour before the meetup, and then we came back to Arda Cards for the meetup. And yep, sure enough, not the right audience at Fabtech for machining stuff. So we had a very small meetup of me, Scott, Uriel, and one other guy that showed up. I'm blanking on his name right now. I should go look that up. But yeah, there were 4 of us, and 3 of us were hosting it. So it was fun though. I talked to this other guy in Uriel for another, I don't know, hour or 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then Scott and I went and we kind of wandered the show. I didn't find too much that was interesting. Again, it wasn't the right market for me. I was going to
Mm-hmm.
Fabtech solely for fun. Like this was a day to hang out with my buddy Scott, and I didn't expect it to be particularly productive. We found a company that's like Subtract for materials, which was kind of cool. Unfortunately, again, because they were Fabtech, it was kind of all welding stuff, so like
Mm-hmm.
structural. But um, as a customer, you would go on there and just kind of put in your order, say, hey, I need 30 feet of box channel or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then the vendors would have a job board, and they could go, yeah, I've got 30 feet of box channel laying around, I can give you this price for it. um, so that was kind of cool. It was too bad they didn't do like machining stuff, but it seemed like a decent service. But I
Yeah.
talked to them for a couple minutes because again, they were basically Subtract for materials, which is interesting. Then I found another company that had some automated quoting stuff, and I was talking to that guy. Um, they were doing some interesting stuff where they did not know about Toolpath. I asked them about Toolpath. This guy was completely clueless about Toolpath. Um, but they were doing a kind of voxel based AI Toolpath thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, basically it tries to make your stock into, itty bitty tiny cubes, and your material or your part into other cubes, and it applies toolpaths to do the best it can to remove all the cubes. Um, Not a good strategy for a cam, like a real cam system, but for estimating for toolpaths, okay. Um, I was thoroughly unimpressed with both the software and the guy. The guy was the CEO of the company, and
Mm-hmm.
he clearly knew nothing about machining. Like you hear Dylan on Within Tolerance talk about how there's people trying to solve the toolpath problem, or the automated cam, the automated programming problem, but they don't have any respect for the problem,
Mm-hmm.
and like how complicated it really is. And I'd always heard
Mm-hmm.
that and been like, yeah, whatever. You're a machinist, so of course you're going to be focused on the. No, I met that guy. He did not call end mills end mills. He called end mills drills. Um, the results that his program were throwing up were absolutely useless and meaningless, and he was unable to recognize that. Um, and like it was trying to do it with like the part that his demo part. It was trying to use 10 tools, and all of them were 1/8 inch end mills, and like he didn't recognize it. It's like, how do you not understand this is a problem? Um, to be fair, it was in beta, and I'm just going to assume that he has a team that does know what they're doing. Obviously, I'm not going to say the name of this company, um, but I was thoroughly unimpressed with this guy. But I was talking to some other guy who came up and was watching the demo and had a great conversation with this other guy. And in fact, I got his email address and I want to get him on the podcast maybe next week.
Oh, okay.
But his job title was AI engineer, and he was wearing a shirt from a machine shop,
Mm-hmm.
and um, he clearly knew what he was talking about. And so me and this other guy went and we talked for 45 minutes or an hour. And he works at a kind of a large machine shop that is trying to solve the automated cam or excuse me, they don't care about automated cam yet. They're trying to solve the automated quoting problem. And they
Mm-hmm.
were, I think, developing some in-house tools and looking around to what was up at Fabtech. Um, and I don't know, I pretty strongly encouraged them to go look at Toolpath. But talking to him was super interesting because he's, been kind of deep on the same questions that we've been dealing with Subtract. So we need to get him on. He said his
Yeah.
shop, it was a job shop. There's something like 120 people, I think he said.
Oh
So
man, that's
much
massive.
bigger scale than even all of Subtract combined. Yeah, much bigger shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was pretty much the show. So out of the out of the full day, Scott and I were there, I think, for 5 or 6 hours. And we spent 3 of those talking to Uriel and one of them talking to this other guy. And then we wandered the show for 2 hours.
Nice.
So
Was there with it
non-traditional,
being?
but it was fun.
I was gonna say with it being a fab tech instead, probably the biggest thing that would be exciting to me would be like the auto saws because I'm sure they'd have a
Yeah.
lot of those.
Yep. Auto saws, robots. So I did not see a single. Do we
Go
have
ahead.
lag again? I was going to say, I did not see a single chip removal machine while I was there.
Oh really? Did they
Yeah.
have robots that you could like that were cobots that you could weld with?
Yes. Tons and tons of those.
Did they have any demos that they'd let you use one on?
Probably not for actively welding, but definitely some where you could just, train a cobot through a couple points,
Mhm.
which we did not do because we did not have time for it.
Gotcha.
There was one company that was pretty cool where you could just like slap a part on a like anywhere inside an enclosure, and the robot would pick it up and deburr it. Well, let me phrase that.
Mm-hmm.
It would locate it using a vision system and automatically deburr it. That was pretty cool. They had
That
a
is
they had a
cool.
really easy interface where you just threw in a CAD model, you picked the edges that you wanted it deburred, and it would like go over it with a flap disk. Again, this was designed for welders, not machine shops, but it was pretty cool.
That does sound cool.
I have some kind of odds and ends like server and accounting software and my new vacuum cleaner that I just made a mess with. Um, Printing TPU, but we'll go back to you. So, how was your week?
Not a whole lot going on. Well, I say that. Not a whole lot new going on. A whole lot going on, but not a whole lot new. Um, just a lot of craziness. We got the big medical part order out.
Woohoo! How many
Just
pieces?
within hours of the due date, the deadline. And it was 200 pieces for the first order, and then I have 800 more due in a month. So
Okay. Wow. 800 in a month. That's a lot.
yeah, yeah, and so it's gonna be um we're not done with the run to the finish yet. We're going to become experts on these parts by the time we're all said and done. So, by
How many of
necessity,
those parts that you shipped went through your CMM?
100%.
Nice.
So, we finished up the parts on Tuesday, but we had to get them through the CMM, which took 2 days to get them through the CMM. Um, and we should be able to go a lot faster. We had a lot of problems trying to get them through the CMM and having to figure out how to properly program things. Um, some of the features we were programming were done in a way that didn't work. Um, and like on some parts, it would show that it wasn't a problem, but it was rejecting like 1 out of 4 once we started getting it up to scale. And it had to do with like the concentricity of the parts.
Mm-hmm.
And on Hexagon, and I don't know if this is true on any other CMMs, but on the PCDMIS, you can measure a cylinder um, as either two circles at two different heights, or you can measure it as a helix, where the helix goes
Okay.
around one time, and that helix is going from top to bottom, and it's kind of measuring the diameter and the height all at the same time. But when we use the helix, it was rejecting parts constantly. And what was crazy it was saying parts were out of spec by like 10 to 20 thou on parts that were all turned in one setup. So like it's all with the same tool, all in the same step. There's no way they're out that far on a lathe. Like that's just not possible.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then we changed it to two circles at the top and bottom of the cylinder of the different ones we were trying to make sure, and then it dropped down to tenths. And so
Hmm.
concentricity callouts, at least from the research we've done, were still extremely green in the whole CMM stuff. But just from the little bit of research we did trying to figure out what was going on, it's one of the hardest specs to properly inspect because of how much it can go wrong with it.
Did you ever figure out why it was giving you bad data with the spiral?
No, we haven't figured that out. We just know that switching it over to a circle instead of a spiral, instead of a helix, fixed the issue. And then after that, I think out of the 200 pieces we measured, we had 4 rejects.
For like real rejects, not just CMM.
Correct. Four parts that were actually out of spec, um, by like a tenth in like one location.
Did you confirm that with hand tools?
Um, yes. So, uh, the hand tools, it's kind of an interesting one because the um the way that these parts were rejected is that um the go gauge would go and the no gauge wouldn't go, but the taper started off thin and then opened up towards the bottom. So it was the bottom of the board that was
Mm.
out by like a tenth. And so the go gauge, the no go gauge wouldn't go, but it couldn't get past the front part of the hole, which was in spec. So those were the 4 that were rejected. Was they were right on that borderline where there was a slight taper on the inside of those parts because as you're holding it in the lathe, when you're out on the end, if you're doing an OD measurement, the OD will show up larger, and as it gets more rigid, it'll come down. On the ID, it's the inverse. Where it's less rigid, it'll show up narrow, and as you go towards the back, as it gets more rigid, it'll open up. So OD tapers cones down, ID cones up. And it was that coning up where about a tenth of deflection as it went from inside to outside, that it got those 4 out of spec. Hopefully that makes sense.
Well, I guess this is why they wanted you to have a CMM.
Yeah. So we had 4 parts that were not caught with the go no go gauge because of that reason right there. Otherwise the go no go gauges that we've been using, there is definitely a little bit of user skill and like the feel of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Dylan had a really good suggestion, which we haven't done yet, but we still might do it. It just depends on if we're going to 100% through the CMM or if we're going to 100% at the machine and then do the CMM as a backup. And if we try to 100% at the machine, we might switch to an air gauge to measure that internal bore, which is what Dylan had suggested. So um, we're still trying to figure out if that's what direction we want to go. If we want to rely solely on our current process, or if we want to try to add in an air gauge. But so much of this is new, uh, that like, and we're constantly changing things that um, we got to get a process down that we really like before we, I think, nail down exactly what we're going to be doing inspection wise. Just because we're constantly changing feeds and speeds and how we're cutting the parts, trying to increase tool life and get more consistent results.
The high precision operation was on the first op, right?
Correct.
The high precision feature was on the first op.
Correct.
So you'd probably still want to do 100% with the go no go gauges regardless, so that you're not passing defects onto the next operation.
We are currently doing that right now. And any features or any parts that we have a question on whether or not the go no go is giving a good result. The way we do it is we fill up an egg tray with 30 parts, and we put them a certain direction if we're highly certain that the go no go gauge is giving us a good result, and then we flip it upside down to say we want to CMM this one. The go no go technically passes, but for one reason or another, there's some question on it, just based on a feel thing, um, and so we want that one specifically measured before it goes to the next stage. And maybe something like an air gauge would fix that uncertainty. Um, I'm sure it would. We just haven't done that yet.
I know nothing about air gauges. Do you
I
know
don't
anything
either.
about air gauges?
I know zero about air gauges other than the little bit that I've had a conversation with Dylan. I need to do some research on them. I don't. I know that they like work. I believe they work via air passing by the part, and they measure the resistance. I believe is how it works. Um, which brings up a good question if that is the case, because it's opened on both ends. It's a through hole, and the backside is open. I wonder if an air gauge would even work with that. I don't know. I'll have to do
I
some
will keep my
research.
mouth shut because I know nothing about them.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
either. Other than that, the big stuff that's going on is we're looking at upping our shop to 400 amps, which I think I've mentioned. We're looking at reaching out to the county to see if we can add on an addition to our shop,
That
and
would be nice.
we're talking. We're me and Western are trying to figure out if we're going to be putting together a purchase order for a lathe in the next month. So we're trying to get everything figured out to potentially buy another machine.
That would be the dual spindle Y axis.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Saunders is selling one.
Yeah, he's selling a Haas ST20Y. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go look up
Uh,
because I think he listed the price and everything on his website.
yeah.
105K
105K. That's not bad, honestly.
for
Um,
2019.
yeah, that's really not that bad.
That implies that the one you're looking at is going to be more than 105K.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because it's going to be fully loaded, the one that we're looking at. So yeah, apart from that, starting to get busy. We've got the first round of battleship hinges about to ship out on Monday. But typically
Woohoo.
we typically ship them out in 3 batches. So this will be the first of 3. Um, and that'll be nice because our net 30 has been really low because of the past month and a half of being relatively slow, which is funny because our relatively slow that we are that we were is still a lot higher than what we historically have been. Our
Yeah.
overhead is just so much higher
Well,
that it doesn't feel that way.
I
So,
assume shipping that last batch of medical parts helped too.
oh yeah, yeah. And what's cool is that if we can get the medical parts up to the volume that I think we can hit, um, then they will cash flow. They will be the highest cash flowing job that can be done on a single machine in our shop. If we can get a dual spindle Y axis
Nice.
lathe, bar feeding that, getting it done in one op, it'll it'll far surpass the other high volume jobs that we're doing in terms of revenue per week. That'd be nice.
Yeah, those Y-axis lathes just print money. Um,
Yeah.
on the battleship parts, is your employee running those? Are you still
hmm
running those
No,
at all?
he's so our employee right now. He's running 2 machines and uh programming simple parts and running
Oh,
them. He
good
ran
for him.
he ran 2 parts this week in addition to keeping both the UMC and the Doosan both running production.
Nice.
And then Weston has been focused either on running the lathe and or the office slash CMM, and then I have been filling in wherever is needed, whether it be um, helping production here and there. Because if both machines stop at the same time, I'll try to hop on one machine while he hops on the other, um, just to keep both of those going. I'll hop onto the lathe. I've been programming and running parts for the VF3, and then I've also been designing and printing a lot of fixtures for the CMM, which is actually a whole nother
That
topic.
makes sense.
Because I think we went through like 3 or 4 different 3D printed fixtures for the CMM, trying to come up with a good way to hold these parts. And I just got done setting up a fixture plate type deal where we can run 30 parts on the CMM in one go, which means we should be able to set them up and hit go and get a full egg carton's worth of inspection done, and we can walk away for 30, 40 minutes while it's running and go do something else. So that'll
So
be that'll
definitely
be
not
really
a
nice.
single piece flow.
No, but they'll be fully finished at that point. Like when they get to the CMM at that point, they are 100% done. Like I have to go through passivation, which I'm doing in batches of 30. These get passivated, and we're doing that in house as well.
Yeah.
So
My worry is just that like you don't catch something until you put them on the CMM and oops, all scrap.
I mean, we just did an order of 200 pieces, and we had 4. The potential is there, but we have enough in process checks to make sure that
Yeah,
it does.
that's fair.
like we're like 4 failed on the CMM, but in process checking caught, I think, 12. So we had 12 that were thrown out because of in process checking, and only 4 that failed made it to the CMM.
I
So
guess you could make an argument that the CMM report is a product that you are delivering to the customer rather than a inspection step. I mean, it's both, but
it's both. They required 100% um for this batch just because of how green we are. Um and then going forward, it's going to go down to a 1 in 5, is what they're going to require from us. We're probably going to stay up at 100% inspection until we get to a point where we're comfortable going down to a 1 in 5. And that might involve, like I said, like an air gauge or some other in process inspection stuff. And it will help once we get like a dual spindle y-axis lathe where we're doing a one and done part. Um, where
that'll be
we're
huge.
Yeah, to where we're not splitting it out, because we have to batch it right now just because we only have one lathe, and we're bar feeding op 1, and it's a completely different setup to do op 2, and it's not very efficient on a lathe to tear down between setups. A lathe is efficient at just pumping out the same thing over and over again. And so it doesn't make sense for us to try to one piece flow that through. Um at least the way it is right now.
Yeah,
So
even I don't argue with that.
so one piece flow will happen once we get to a point where we can run a dual spindle y-axis lathe. Then that will very easily one piece flow, um, and we should be able to. We wouldn't have to necessarily need in process checking as much, because at that point we could, in theory, just take them straight to the CMM as they're coming off, and just have it run them as they're coming off.
Oh
So
yeah, um, because there's not a between step. Like it's not moving between stations, so there's no
no,
reason. Yeah, no, I'm with you. If you were still like pulling it off the lathe and then putting it onto the mill, you'd want to check it before it goes on the mill so that you're not wasting the mill's time by processing material that's already scrapped. But yeah,
yeah.
no, I think you're doing it the smartest way you can now.
And it's a learning curve. This material, we've had a problem here recently, which I would be curious what people say. um I felt like we got really good feeds and speeds on our boring bars for that internal feature, and we can run 100 parts before we need to flip inserts. But it seems like, and I'm guessing it has to do with how small these inserts are. For context, the boring bars that we're running are like a 1/8 inch boring bar, carbide boring bar, and they have
Uh-huh.
a really tiny insert that goes into them. And I could run 100 parts, no problem. And then I go to flip the insert to the other side, and it breaks on the first part. And then I'll replace it with a new one. It'll last 100. I'll flip it. It'll last for 100. And then I'll put in a new insert, and then it'll break immediately. And so I think it's real easy to misload those inserts into the boring bar, where they're not seating the right way. And then if they're not seated the right way, they basically shatter immediately.
What shape are they?
I don't know. Um,
Diamond,
let me
triangle, round, square.
uh,
Like
let me
I
go
don't need
look.
the
Let me go look.
exact, CNMG, but
Yeah, what I'm not very familiar with the lathe inserts. I mean, it's more of a square. Um,
okay.
Weston is the one who runs the lathe 90% of the time, so um he's kind of the lathe guy. I'm more of the mill guy. But I do know
So
we're
probably one
using
of the like squarish diamond ones.
yeah. Yeah, it's like a CNM it's like a CNMG CNMG, except it's like really really tiny. Um
Um,
and I'll probably be able to find it
what is your
because go ahead.
what is your process for cleaning the pocket on the boring bar?
We've just been blowing it off, but I feel like if you were to clean it properly, we almost need like that putty, like that
Yeah.
tack putty, because it's so tiny.
When I hear inconsistencies with the machine, my first thought is generally something's dirty or is getting dirty. Or like has the boring bar ever been damaged by an insert breaking?
Oh
Is like
yeah,
the seat
yeah.
need to be replaced
We
or
we've had to replace the boring bar 3 or 4 times, and they're not cheap because they're carbide boring bar. And I've
Hmm.
thought about going to the micro turning tools, but if we can find a way to make these inserts work, um, it's like $2 or $3 an edge, and so it's a lot cheaper than going to the solid carbide boring bars. But the solid carbide boring bars, I'm sure, are going to be way more consistent, just because you're not trying to seat that such a tiny little insert onto them.
but you're paying for a whole lot more carbide.
Yeah, you're paying for a ton of carbide.
Could it be the quality of the insert?
They're Sumitomo inserts. Sumitomo inserts and a Haas carbide boring bar. And when they work,
I
they
don't know
just
enough about lathes to know if the brand of the boring bar would matter that much.
yeah. And Haas has recently changed their Haas tooling website, and I despise the new change.
Oh, I thought it was better, but I haven't spent that much time on there. It loads faster. My issue with the old website is it was painfully slow for my internet here. And the new website loads a million times faster.
This website is not. I was gonna try to see if I could find it, but the website is not cooperating. So, anyways, that's one of our biggest challenges with that is once it's set up and running, it runs like a champ and it's really consistent and accurate and super nice. But when something gets a little bit off, you're fighting it for 20, 30 minutes and replacing inserts if it didn't seat right or whatever. And it's just really frustrating because it's like you feel like you got everything dialed and you can walk away from the machine and it just spits out really good parts. And then just one thing is slightly off and everything just starts breaking one after another.
Well, anything else in your world?
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Nope, just
Let me
Harrison.
think.
Harrison's the center of his world. Uh, that was
So,
a joke. Harrison.
it was pretty cool. The parts that our intern, or not, I say intern, he's our employee, not our intern. Our employee ran, they were these little brass stamps for pricing product in like a production line environment.
Okay.
And
Ah,
he had to, so like they go on like a box of food, or something that you'll see in the store, and they'll put the price on the actual box. And so he had a lot of fun because he had to program using a 1/32 inch end mill, and he had never, it's not that big of a deal for us, but it was just kind of funny, like having him like freak out over how tiny it was. And
yeah.
then I went and I whipped out the 15 thou end mill that I had used to slot stainless steel on a zometry job, and his head about exploded. because he didn't think that they made tools that small. So it was pretty fun watching him like try to grasp how tiny some of these tools were. Um, but the parts came out really, really good. I was really happy with the work that he did on that job. He's still learning a lot. Um, I had him set up all the tools on the Doosan. Some of it's on us, just because when you're working with two people that know kind of what's going on, you bring a third one that has no idea what's going on, and you try to introduce them into that system, you're going to find things that you wouldn't have thought of. And one of those things that we've never really thought of that now we're looking at it, we're going, okay, that's a completely insufficient way of setting things up, is that we keep our thread mills and our taps in the same box. And so
Okay.
he set up a tap as a thread mill, and it's like no,
Understandable.
we can't do that. And so I had to be like, listen, this is not your fault. I said they're all in the same box, and they're the same area, and you just grabbed one out of the thread size that you were supposed to set up. So it's like, it's not your fault. It's completely not your fault. However, this is how you identify the different types of taps and thread mills and all this other fun stuff.
Now I want to know if you can thread mill with a tap. Because I mean, I've seen someone face aluminum with a oh, what's it called? The not a circular saw, but those saws that are circle for like cutting drywall. If you can face aluminum with those, you got to be able to thread mill with a tap.
So yeah, it was fun trying to
Harrison will not
like
accept
go
this.
through. Huh?
Oh yeah, we have delay. I was like, Harrison will not accept my thread mill with a tap. Oh, taps are spiral though, and thread mills aren't.
Yes, thread mills are just a
Never
single line
mind.
all
There
the way
goes my
around.
idea.
Yeah. Plus, the diameters are completely different because one's designed one way. Like it would have to be something that was the same thread pitch of a much bigger diameter.
Yeah. Okay, it's a bad idea.
But I would enjoy watching a YouTube video of you trying, AJ. I'm gonna share you on the side.
What what if I just end milled? Like, can I slot with the tap?
Slot with a tap. Oh, that would be maybe in plastic. Start with plastic and work your way up.
I do have a video of me tapping the hole in the center of a Cheez-It.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that video. But yeah, I think that's about all I got. Do you want to move on to Patreons and then maybe some questions? Or do you have something
I have
else?
some odds and ends updates.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So this was actually a couple weeks ago. We got our server up and running,
Mm-hmm.
finally, which is mostly being used as a NAS, network attached storage, for hosting like the videos of taps and patients. We eat up a lot of storage space, but also it's being used for some production stuff for Subtract, and now it is hosting our brand new accounting software, which is the other update that I had. So I have been spreadsheet up until now, and I have finally, well, I'm going to say I've finally made the switch. I have finally just started barely scratching the surface of making the switch to real accounting software, mostly because things were getting complicated between Subtract and Audacity. We did decide that those need to stay two separate independent business entities, um, mostly for some like liability protection stuff. But and for some like asset stuff, like, you know, who does the YouTube channel belong to? Like, I don't really want the YouTube channel to belong to Subtract, so I'll keep that with Audacity and stuff like that. So that stuff was getting way too complicated for a spreadsheet, and I was so dreading quarterly taxes this quarter,
Mm-hmm.
because I did not have that stuff implemented yet. I was really hoping to get the transition done before quarterly taxes, but I ended up too busy. But I'll have it all finished up here. Hopefully, a week would be too optimistic. Maybe within 2 weeks. So basically, everything is configured in the software at this point, but I need to like go through the year and add every transaction for the entire year. Uh, but I'm looking forward to that, making taxes easier in the future. Anyway, Patreons.
Yep, let's do it.
So we have a whole bunch of Patreons. We appreciate all of you guys. We have a Patreon Discord server. So any Patreon at a paid tier can come join us and talk, and that's turned into a fantastic community. I just found out they've been doing like a weekly, not a live stream, but like a group chat, a group call every Friday for the last like, I don't know, year or something. I didn't know about it. So it's very much taken on kind of a life beyond just Harrison and I. So that is probably, honestly, the best perk of joining the Patreon. If you pay any amount of money, you get access to that Discord. If you don't pay any money, you get access to our weekly Q&A, which we'll do here in a bit. You can join at the free tier. Everybody gets access. Um, the Patreon just makes sure that we keep the riffraff out, where someone has to at least take a step or two to, put forward some effort to be able to ask questions, so we only get good questions. Except occasionally ones we get from Jacob. Our Patreons include, but are not limited to, Stephen M., A Dead Horse, Daniel R., James at Moultrie Made, Ryan at Strato Manufacturing, Austin W., Kyle at Kursk Machine, Devin at Sinister Machine Works, James N., Ben at Prickly Pear Prototypes, Cam S., Shep at Alderson Prototyping, Jacob at Zonum Precision, Jason S., Joshua H., Christian Z., Freaky Climber, Prescott at 1Z, 2Z Systems, Trey V., Guy L., Alexander B., Scott at Design the Everything, Jamie at JSpec Engineering, Chris at Zyke Precision, EJ at Nocturnal Welding, Chris at Thought Bomb Design, and Jake Brownson. I got thirsty, okay? My allergies are bad, and I got thirsty.
That was the epitome of tripping and falling on your face on the last line. You were running down a hill, and your body outran your legs. It was just bam.
It happens more when I'm talking than I'd like to admit. Okay, now that I'm crying, Shep at Alderson Prototyping. It was mentioned that now this one's for me. I need one for Harrison. When you from James N. When you program parts, do you have a computer close to the machine to make tweaks to the programs, or do you have a dedicated programming computer, or have you done something like Pearson with the rolling carts and computers?
So now, no, you're good. Every CNC machine that we have in our shop has a dedicated computer next to it. And while we can program at the computer or at the machine, typically we try to program the bulk of the work at our main computers and only use the ones at the machines for tweaking. Although in some cases, if we have a job that has like a 5-minute cycle and it's really not long enough for us to go do something else, but not short enough for us to, or not short, so short that like you can't do anything. It's really nice in those instances to have the computer because we can start programming or doing computer work while running the machine. Um, and so it's been really nice to have a machine at every computer that anyone can log into, depending on who's running it. And you can pull up the prints. So everything's digital on the print side. We don't print out prints anymore. They're just at the machine. Or we can make fusion tweaks or check emails, or do pro shop at the machine. And so what we did is we just bought some cheap, I think they're HP all-in-one computers that were like $200 to $400 price range. Not super expensive, but all in one, and they're touchscreen, and they're not workhorses by any stretch of the imagination, but they are really nice to have. And then we already have the U-line tables at all of our machines, and so we just got a computer mount that that holds the computer on an arm that's flexible, and then we got another flex arm that holds the keyboard and mouse on a tray. And so you can push and move the screens and keyboards wherever you want, while you're at the machine, and you can push them out of the way where you can have access to the whole table, or you can pull them right over the bulk of the table, if you have the space and want to be a little bit closer to the machine. And it's just been really, really nice.
Yeah.
So
By my house, I have my old laptop bolted up underneath the table to the bottom of it. with a monitor on an arm above and mouse and a keyboard. Well, I say bolted. It's on a 3D printed bracket that holds it up underneath. When I'm behaving, I will keep my regular laptop by the Tormach. But I found that I'm doing that less and less. But that's just because this desktop computer is just a few steps away from that machine.
Yeah, I will say that like once you start doing that, it's really hard to go back. Just having a computer that you can just hop on and start using. The only time we can get a little bit frustrating is we're not remote VPing in to our or remote connecting to our other computers. We're just logging into the computers at each station, and so our Fusion license is constantly jumping between computers, and so
Yeah.
it's like I might have it open on my desk, and I'd have to close out of the file on my desk to open it up at the machine, or um, I'll have I'll be running two machines, and depending on which one I was using last or which one I'm at mainly, that'll be the one that I'll try to log into Fusion on to try to do any updates. Um, but it is nice that every single machine except for the Doosan, we can wirelessly send programs to. So from any computer in the shop, I can just update and send files to any other machine except the Doosan. That's the only one that I haven't got
Yeah.
figured out yet.
The other nice thing, at least for me and the way I work, is inspection reports. So most of the
Hmm.
time, I enter all of my inspection data straight into Fusion and use their inspection report tool. And being able to like sit there as I'm running parts and inspect the ones that are already done and put the information into Fusion is very handy. All right, Shep and Alderson prototyping. It was mentioned that using some advertising for Subtract is being considered. Any movement with that? What have y'all's experience in the past been? So my original hope was to not do any paid advertising with Subtract. I would still prefer it to stay that way because paid advertising is expensive, and the way Subtract works, like we're necessarily fairly low margin. Because if we get $1,000 of work in, we're turning around and sending a huge percentage of that to our shops. So we're not working with a huge amount of margin on each job. Um, and advertising could quickly eat up all of that. So we could lower our rates and just become Xometry and spend the money on marketing. But I don't think anybody wants that. So I'm still thinking about it. We will probably do some tests. Our website is not ready yet. Your website has to be really good if you're doing traditional paid advertising, and we are not there yet. We also don't really have the infrastructure yet for a huge influx of work. Jacob is just days away from launching our new production system um, that will handle automatic generation and sending of things like purchase orders and quotes and invoices. But without that, I don't really want to push the advertising too hard. In the past, we like back to Design the Everything, we both had success and not success with paid advertising. Um, we actually got a ton of sales through paid advertising and really good like click-through rates and conversion rates for our products. The problem was our products weren't really high enough profit margin to justify it. So even getting good ad rates, like we just weren't making enough money on each carabiner for it to be sustainable. And in fact, that is where Design the Everything got itself in trouble. It's because we were really good at uh, spending ad money to just make more work for ourselves, because we had this vicious cycle of spending ad money to sell carabiners and then using the profits from the carabiners to pay for the ad money. And it just resulted in a lot of work and no profits. So obviously we don't want to do that. But like I was talking with Uriel at Articards, and he was saying they were having a huge amount of success with it. I've seen that we are able to do it, and it's just kind of having the right product and the right margins. And I don't know if the lifetime value of a customer is high enough, maybe it is worth it. We've also looked at going to some trade shows, which are expensive. But I think really the place that our money is best spent is just making YouTube videos, um, and affiliate marketing. But no one's really hopped on the affiliate marketing thing. We're offering really good affiliate marketing rates, but I guess the people that we are trying to sell the affiliate marketing to aren't the right people to be doing it. So if you want to be a Subtract affiliate, we have really good rates. Does that answer the question?
Sounds well answered to me.
I'm like losing my voice here. I'll let you read the next one.
Let's see here. Greg from Frogtown MFG. Most machinists often treat their techniques, setups, and workflows as secrets. Do you guys agree with this approach? Do you think this culture of secrecy negatively affects overall the shop efficiency and innovation of the trade as a whole?
I think this attitude is. Oh, I have strong opinions on this. I think this attitude is why manufacturing is going to China. I think it's the crotchety machinists that want to guard all their secrets and then not grow the trade as a whole. Um, it's a good example of what's a local maxima. Like it's best for that one guy, but it just destroys the manufacturing industry.
Well, I find the same people that are really keen on trade secrets are the same people that don't like to learn from others either. It's like they have their method and they're so focused like this and keeping their lane, protected that they're not even learning from the stuff that's available to them as well. So like it hurts them twice. One, they're not helping to grow the industry, and two, that's also the same mindset that kind of silos people, and they don't have the opportunity to learn from others because they're so focused on protecting what they have. Now, I do think there are very narrow and specific processes that shops can have that can be classified as trade secrets. But I think that term often gets ballooned to a side that encapsulates so much that it's often misused. Because it's like it's not a trade secret if I'm using, a 3D printed Gridfinity system to organize my tools, and that makes me more efficient. That's not a trade secret. It's not a trade secret when I'm using the manufacturer speeds and feeds, but I've decreased it by 10%, and so my tool life is shot up by 30%. Like none of that stuff is trade secrets. Now there might be something where I'm working on this very specific material that's not very common in the industry for a very specific industry that's very competitive and doing this one little thing. Maybe at that point, like you're so specific to what you're doing that it's not really generalized. That like, yeah, okay, maybe there's something there that is a trade secret that like, yes, I can understand your desire to protect it. Um, but it's so rare that I would say the bulk of job shop machine shops that exist in this nation don't have anything that really should be classified as a trade secret for the most part.
Yeah, my argument would be if you're doing something that is very niche and there's not a lot of competition in, um, nobody cares. Like nobody's gonna copy you and come join your niche because of the YouTube videos you shared explaining this cool machining trick. Like if it's niche,
Mhm.
you're not competing with a bunch of people, and
Yeah.
so sharing doesn't really hurt you. If it's something that's super competitive and everybody does, well, guess what? Everybody already knows that trick. You're not special. Um,
Yeah.
if it is something that's truly outstanding and amazing and out there, um, maybe you have designed a fixture or a vise that is genuinely unique, then get a patent on it and sell it. Like, but
Yeah.
if you're in a competitive environment, like your secret is known by a million other people. If you're in a niche environment, nobody's gonna come copy you. And yeah, again, I'm with Harrison. There's definitely exceptions to this. Um, Obviously, anything that's like controlled information, Yeah, you kind of have to be secret about that. Um, but like techniques, procedures, like let you could write a manual to that describes the perfect machine shop. It has every bit of manufacturing knowledge in it. It has all the techniques and procedures that you need. It's got everything from like accounting to inspection. Like you put together this perfect business, like a business franchise. You put it out there for free on the internet, and everybody's going to ignore it because that's kind of the way the world is. People want to build this stuff from the ground up themselves. Lean has been around a really long time. And I understand there's arguments that, lean isn't perfect in all applications. Um, I'm not sure I agree with those arguments. Not all tools are perfect at all applications, but the overall arching. Anyway, lean is a good thing. There are many shops that would be benefited by lean. It has been around a long time. There is a huge amount of information out there about it. And there are shops that don't adopt the basic fundamentals of like keeping your stuff organized. Why are you keeping your tip and trick secret when there's people who, have the best path forwards and they don't follow it?
Well, I mean, we could take this one step further. I have that local shop that has been doing this stuff the same way for like 20, 30 years. And I'm literally on my hands and knees begging for opportunities to help them grow because I don't want to see them close down. And they just don't want to change for the bulk of it. I mean, and it's like I'm giving you my quote unquote trade secrets and offering to help program parts and like move you guys forward. And I've done it a couple times, and every time I've done it, you guys have absolutely loved it. But then you like you don't want to progress beyond whatever I'm pushing. And so it's like, okay, I guess I'm just done trying to help because you just don't want it.
Yeah. I I I would say okay, there is probably a line here when you go from theory to work that you've done. Um I I'm a bad example. I would expect someone else to teach somebody how to make a tool library. I wouldn't expect them to share their own custom tool library. Same thing with like Fusion templates. I would expect somebody to teach somebody else how to make those Fusion templates. I would not expect that person to just give them their template library. I'm weird. I do that. I have like the subtract library with our Kanban cards and our tool bins that I will give away when they're ready. They're not done yet. But I wouldn't expect that of most people. So if it's ideas, give those away. If it's work, I don't think you're obligated by any means to give that away.
Anything that can be generalized is free game. Anything that's highly specific, there could be something there that you don't want to share. Like it's like the difference between asking someone how they quoted and what they quoted.
Yeah,
You
okay,
know,
that's fair.
if I asked a shop, how would you approach quoting this job versus what price did you give that customer? Like it's one is highly specific and could be classified as a trade secret. The other one is a process that they can tell you kind of how their general process works and you can adapt it to yourself um, without actually knowing what final answer they got with their specific version of the process.
So even with subtract, like we share how we quote, but I'm not going to give you our spreadsheet that has all of our magic numbers in it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I accept that as a reasonable line. But pretty much anything else, I'm open to talk about. Send me a message. I'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Ryan at Horston Tool. For Harrison, how is the Jet 9 AVS coolant from Style Cool been working out for you? Foaming issues. I know you mentioned once that your tap life decreased slightly. Any other noticeable differences to what you were running before?
I've had zero foaming issue. That's been good. I will say that for whatever reason, we go through this coolant a lot faster. Um, anytime I fill up the machines, I feel like I don't know if it's a carry out or what of it. It just seems to get used up a lot faster. And maybe some of that's just because I'm getting into production work, and so I'm just
You're
using more
making more
coolant in
parts.
general. Um, so that could just be it. I will say I this one might have, I wouldn't say like a health hazard, but like getting it in the air, like when it turns into a vapor and you breathe it in, you can start coughing. Um, so like it's like you obviously don't want to do that, but like if you open the doors and you stick your head in too fast, like I wouldn't recommend doing that. Just from a health and safety perspective. But like from actual cutting, it's been working pretty good. Like I don't have a whole lot of complaints that are making me want to go find a different coolant solution currently. I will say that the floral scent of when we first got it going is kind of dissipated, and it's now kind of got that stereotypical coolant smell to it until you clean out the tanks and switch it all out to a fresh batch. Um, that element of it's gone, at least on our current machines. But we haven't done a coolant flush on the whole system in probably about a year. We have been using the Freddy about once every 2 to 3 months to kind of clean out the tanks. Probably need to do that again.
Nice.
Um, Here's relatively soon, I think. Um, but other than that, I mean, it's been fantastic. Um, we are trying to add some more coolant skimmers to try to pull off some of the oils. We added one to the lathe, and it made a huge difference. Um, Kind of that same coolant skimmer that I think Saunders recommended a long time ago. Um, uh, it's got that pump that pumps up into this big um, tray that like has all these magnets that magnetize to the back of your machine, holds this big unit, and it's it pumps coolant up into it, and then there's an overflow that brings it back into the machine. And then as it's going through this, there's a giant matrix, and it kind of all the oils kind of come to the top. Works fantastic. It's done a really good job of keeping our coolant clean on the lathe. Um, Definitely probably need to add that to both the VF and the UMC. The the Doosan kind of has its own uh, oil cleaning system built into the tank already. It does all right. Um, Still might need to be augmented with one of these systems, but the Doosan tank is um, a lot less user friendly compared to the Haas tanks in terms of like adding stuff to it. The Haas tanks are just like these giant tanks that like you can just pull off all the panels and you can get access to the whole tank. Whereas the Doosan, it's kind of a L shape that wraps around the machine, and it's got all these panels that are bolted onto it. And it's just a pain in the butt to try to like unbolt, 100 small panels to be able to access everything to clean it out.
I'm still on
So
Qualichem 251, like I have from day one of machining.
yeah, and we did quality 251 dirty when we had it because that was the first one we had, but we didn't have a refractometer, and we were running it at probably like a 1% concentrate, and everything was
Yeah,
rusting. So
yeah. I
um,
I do kind of think I'm due for a coolant switch out. I think I let it sit too long with no circulation or anything when I was doing all that teaching. And it doesn't smell bad, but it doesn't smell the same. And I feel like that's a bad sign.
no, it's been working good. No complaints. Even the tap life, it's definitely doesn't have as high of lubricity as some of the other stuff. Um, but it's there's probably a slight decrease in tool life, but it's not terrible. Well, guys, that's all we got this week. Um, Thanks for hanging out with us, and keep the questions coming. It's always fun to see what's going through everyone's heads, and being able to answer some of those questions. Shout out to EJ from last time. Hopefully we helped a little with his problems that he's having, and hopefully he's feeling a little better. And yeah, that's about all we got. This has been Harrison with Precision Ingenuity signing out with AJ from Audacity Micro and Subtract Manufacturing. Talk to you guys later.
Taps and patience, our daily grind. In this machine shop, we'll always find joyous struggles, all intertwined. Taps and patience. of a kind.
That was still really loud.
Yes, it is.